My name is Greg McLean. I'm the Member of Parliament for Calgary Centre, and I'm a representative of the Conservative Party of Canada. My wife and I were talking about running for political office. We were down on a vacation in Peru, and I told her, listen, I think things are going really wrong in our country right now, financially. I looked at where the current government was actually taking our country financially and said, this is not good. I have a 23-year career in financial services and looked at where we were going on a world scale and said, this has to reverse fairly quickly. And she said, you should do that. So once I got buy-in from my wife that there's a plan here, then it worked pretty well. I went through the whole process of nomination, election, putting a team together. It was quite a process. One of the things that really stands out as far as my time as an MP goes was there was a vote from my party to sanction one of the members of the Liberal Party, and he was the head of my committee at the time, the Natural Resources Committee where I served. His name is James Maloney, and he's a Liberal. He's a good member of Parliament. And I spoke to James and said, James, what happened here? There was an ethics violation. And he showed me what happened. And I could see he was completely innocent of the charges that were laid against him. And so as much as there's party discipline in votes, I told my party there's absolutely no way I'm voting to hang an innocent man, if you will. This man did not do what he's accused of, and I will not be voting to censure him in the House of Commons. He and I have remained good friends, and we get things done across party lines because of actions like that. And I think that parties have to start acting that way. These are people in positions, and these people don't need to have their names dragged through the mud for the wrong reasons. Every day I sit there and sometimes I think about the frustrations of this job, and every day I think, you're bringing something to this equation. There's 338 MPs in the House of Commons, and if you're moving the dial 1 degree on the narrative that's happening in this country about the solutions we need to bring forward, you're actually making a difference. So keep at it. Well, it's a profession. I used to think that, most of the skill sets you learn in different professions are somewhat transferable. The thing about politics is it's a skill set that you learn from scratch. Because in most jobs you have in your life, it's about solving problems and getting things done. Politics is about the narrative, first of all, and hopefully you get things done from there. So it's a bit backwards if you think about it in your whole problem solution set. And you don't learn that until you get here. It's a little troubling in some respects, but that's the way politics are. That's the way the public absorbs their information, and you've got to get to solutions after establishing the narrative, unfortunately. In the last Parliament, I was our party's critic for natural resources, and the Minister of Natural Resources at that time was Seamus O'Regan. And he was, he had a good grasp of the file. And there was a bill coming forward to the House of Commons. It went to the Senate first. It was called S3. As you know, bills can start in either house. So S3 was about the labor standards on the offshore and improving those. They were already over a year late in synchronizing those. So labor employees in Canada's offshore were not covered properly. Offshore workers in Canada are the ones that work on oil and gas rigs, primarily offshore in primarily Newfoundland and Nova Scotia, where these areas where they're actually drilling wells and working to produce the oil and gas that Canada produces for the world. And those need to have employment standards on them as well. And it's a joint federal-provincial relationship that happens to make sure those people are properly covered. I think some of the biggest challenges to democracy today are misinformation, and people absorb information from the sources they use, whether that's the media, standard media, traditional media, if you will, or the media that we're getting, social media or the internet. The problem is that all those sources get to choose what you see. Even the algorithms built into social media, they push people down into what we call in the financial industry confirmation bias. So once they know you're leaning in a certain direction, they give you further information on that. And if you're not aware of looking at things that confirm your pre-existing bias and not looking for the alternative discussions on the same subject, you're missing the whole broader discussion. And this is part of democracy that I think parliamentarians are supposed to bring to the discussion. It is something that's going to continue to polarize people, and that's going to be to the great detriment of our democracy going forward. I've got 4 boys, so they bring me hope every day. They're between the ages of 24 and 30 years old, and they're wonderful, and I look at how well they do in life, and I think, you've done great, and I think they've got good parents. So 3 of them are my stepsons, and 1's my son, and they've been raised well. You can kind of see that they're very successful, they're driven, they want to get things done in the world. So I think that, when I look at them, I look at their friends, the ones that inspire me, they want to get things done, and I'm very thankful for that, because I do worry that there's a lethargy in some parts of our society. They don't show that at all, and their friends don't either, so that gives me great hope. If I had a piece of advice to share with my younger self, I would say life is full of peaks and valleys. Don't take the valleys too hard, and don't celebrate the peaks too hard. You're going to go through these, and some say the absence of one is just a version of the other, if you will. So you've got the sadness is just an absence of happiness philosophically. Once you experience great things, go back to them. Make sure you're going to continue to build on your successes going forward. But I say, don't take the failures too hard, because failures are part of life, and they're things we learn from. We all go through a certain amount of failure. They lead to our further successes going forward.